So where do you think we should put the knives?
Near the bread?
You can come here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here? Should I just take it out of the thing?
No, leave it for a minute.
Okay.
It's a bit of an unboxing.
All right. Shall we start the video?
Let's go. Okay. So some of you may know that I'm a bit of a knife nut. I have a few knives. And I've gotten into like hand sharpening them on Japanese stones and stuff like that. And we've always had a bread knife. And I guess we never really...
I didn't think there was anything special about a bread knife, to be honest.
And originally we had a cheapo bread knife from Kitchen Stuff Plus, I think.
Yeah, and I think it was a Henkel's brand, but it was more on the lower end of the Henkel's.
It was like a $12 knife. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
And it didn't really cut very well. It sort of just tore its way through whatever. And then we decided, okay, well, we should get a decent bread knife. And so we bought this guy here, Global knife, because I'd had a few Global knives. They're not like crazy expensive. They're Japanese. They're nicely made. And I figured, okay, well, Global would make a good bread knife because...
we have other Global knives as well.
Yeah, we have other Global knives. So figured that would be a good choice. And, until recently, this was doing just fine. We used it for cutting bread or bagels or whatever. And then...
Works on a tomato.
Yeah. Although I still prefer a really sharp slicing knife on a tomato because it doesn't tear the skin, it slices through it.
Yep.
And then Nadia started baking sourdough bread.
A lot of it.
A lot of it. And some larger loaves. And, part of a sourdough is that nice crunchy crust. The problem being trying to get a knife through the crunchy crust without destroying or crushing the nice soft bread underneath it.
Yep. And long enough to actually fit the width of the bread.
Yeah, that was the other thing, is this knife is, I think, 8.5 inches long.
Yeah.
And some of the loaves are that much in diameter. And so, Nadia was really struggling, as you can see, with trying to cut through some of her loaves.
Yeah.
So we decided it was time to...
Repeat that again so they can hear you, since I'm carrying the microphone.
No. So now that we can actually go shopping, we decided it was time to get a real bread knife, something that will cut through a nice sourdough loaf.
Yeah, because we're baking enough bread that we actually need it. And for the purposes of showcasing the inside of the bread and not crushing the crumb, we need a proper knife.
And we had a few slicing mishaps. No, all limbs are intact, but so there we go. So that was 9 inches, 8.5 or 9 inches for the Global.
Yeah.
And then we went shopping at our favorite place, Phong. And Victorinox is a brand that I've never owned, but I'm really familiar with. When I worked in restaurants, the chefs always had Victorinox stuff. It was always sort of the standard in the kitchen. And I've read a whole bunch of knife reviews, like for chef's knives and stuff like that. And people keep going, there's all these beautiful knives, but really, when you test them, the Victorinox ones, which are quite inexpensive, do just as good a job. So I thought this would be a good choice. Now our Global knife was, right now they're priced at like $115.
Which I think is sort of what we paid. It wasn't
Probably,
cheap.
Yeah. It's not a cheap knife.
Yeah.
This is how long?
This is...
That's like 11 inches or something.
About between 11 and 12. It's about 12 inches.
12 inches. Substantial difference in length.
Yeah.
Nice plastic molded handle. It's not classy, but it does the trick. And, it's got a nice grip on it. And these things are really well known. And this was $69.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I did note is that it is much thinner. Like you can tell there's a flex.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell on there, and there's no flex in the Global knife. And I had asked when I was purchasing the knife, I'm noticing there's a flex in a knife. Will it still be good to, I keep looking at the monitor as opposed to the lens. Will it still be good to cut through the bread because I need a proper knife? And she's like, it's the best. It's the best of the best. She's like, all chefs use this. I'm like, okay, well then we'll give it a go.
So let's give it a go.
Yeah, so we have, should we show how both of them function or just go straight?
Let's just go straight to the good one.
We have plenty of footage.
We know what goes wrong with that knife.
Yeah, and we also...
I don't want to see blood.
Let's quickly talk about, we will, I think, cover this in another video, but let's mention this bread.
Let's cut this bread, then we'll talk about it when we can show it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna get the cutting board. There you go.
There you go.
And cut away, so to speak.
Do you want me to cut or do you want me to cut?
You do it, because you're the one who has to cut the bread more often than I do.
Okay.
New Victorinox bread knife. That's a good sound. Oh.
Wow. I kind of cut it off center, but...
That went straight on through.
It did. Normally the first struggle is the top crust. Wow.
And now let me show you the true beauty of a sharp bread knife is this. I'm cutting about 1/4 of an inch.
It's not crushing the crumb at all.
Not crushing the bread at all.
Yeah.
Nice thin slice of bread. Beauty.
Yeah. That turned out really good.
Now let's talk about the bread.
Oh, look at this bread.
That's a pretty, pretty bread.
Yeah.
So tell us about what that bread is, because I'm not even totally 100% sure.
So we went shopping at Kensington Market in Toronto. We love shopping there often. It's one of the 2 markets we go to. And we noticed in one of the alleyways they have a Kensington flea market going on. We figured we'd go check it out.
Always.
And Rob spotted these flour bags everywhere at a stall. And he goes, Nadia, look. I look over. They're fresh milled flour from local farmers. And these are not this is not your average commodity flour that you find in grocery stores. This is actually fresh milled flour from the farmer at the miller with no additives. And because they're growing particular wheats, this one, I'm actually not sure what the actual wheat name is.
What did he call it?
They're calling it Ferdinand. And
reminds me of the cartoon bull.
And he said this is a very particular wheat. He sort of said it's kind of like an acquired taste. It has a very distinct flavor. And when I asked him what the flavor profile would be, he said it'd be kind of molasses and earthy at the same time.
So did you blend this with anything?
So I blended this flour, which is a strong flour, not an all-purpose. I blended this with whole grain einkorn at about 20%. And the hydration level for people who are bakers is at 83% in water.
And so this dough looked beautiful.
It did look beautiful.
Let's stop talking and eat.
Oh, which in bottom or top crust?
Hey, me.
You know what? It tastes like malt.
There is a malty molasses, a little bit of sweetness. The crust is beautiful and flavorful.
So how are you finding the bottom crust, which tends to be the thickest part of the bread?
No problem at all. It's not biting back.
It's not biting back. That is good. It is slightly sweet, very malty, and at the same time, very savory.
That's very good. And it's nice to feel like we can support small Ontario farmers who are doing things that are unique and different and making really special wheats.
Oh my God. This is very good.
So you'll be seeing more about, what's the guy's name?
So the company is called Grounded Pantry, which will be selling these flours. I don't know if by the time we post this video, if he'll have his website, but he's working on the website.
Right.
To be able to sell it.
We want to work with him, and eventually we'd like to reach out and meet some of the farmers, and we'll take you along on that journey.
Yeah, let's support local. All right, Victorinox bread knife all the way.
Victorinox bread knife. We'll have a link below for Phong for the Victorinox.
Yeah.
That's a really nice knife. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.